Hi all, Ted Simpson here, and we are doing our painting a little late today. I don't do it on the day, but you know, duty calls. So you're catching me here, still getting prepped up here. I'm gonna kind of play around, don't know what paints I'm gonna use. I have a vague idea of a composition. So I figured I'd just get this sky out and go from there. Try to figure out what I'm going to do. Maybe a little bit of Prussian blue today. Prussian blue. So I've got my 12 by 16 canvas here. It's set up portrait style. Already covered it with the thin layer of the liquid white, and clean the brush a little bit. This brush is getting a little old, little stiff, bristled. See if I can't recover it sometime. I don't know if that'd be a video or not, but okay, so let's take a 1-inch brush here, and we're gonna have ourselves a interestingly bold sunset here. I got myself finally out of the chair here, and we're gonna do a painting. I admit I kind of was lazy today. It's my first day off in some time here, so I was taking it easy, and got an email saying, hey, have you decided on this painting yet for this particular venue? And I'm like, nope. I was supposed to paint it today, and I hadn't got around to it. So here I am, 5 minutes later, painting the painting. So a little bit of the Indian yellow, and then pushing it on and softening it, a little yellow ochre. Didn't really clean my brush between them. I just wanted it to fade off and feather. Nice and soft there. So I am going to clean the brush real quick here in the paint thinner. Make sure we get it super clean. In a classroom setting, you could probably get away without using the paint thinner at all and just use your paper towels. Just to be on the safe side. How about that? Notice here we're not using the cadmium yellow. Cadmium yellow will green up much quicker than these other two yellows. So starting with my Prussian blue across the top, I'm going to really kind of work it, sort of fade it as I'm putting it on. Okay, I really want it to feather down and be hardly there by the time we touch that yellow. We want to try to prevent any type of green happening. So a little bit of paint, that liquid white helps us. The tone of the yellow helps us. And I think we're doing okay. I'm going to put a little more up here. Now I've got a little bit on there, right at the transition line. Now we can darken this up a little bit. Bring it down a little more. Little lower, little bolder. Taking it a little bit at a time and blending it thoroughly. Crisscross strokes. That's what works the best to take out any weird little brush marks. Okay, I think that's bold enough. Now, I'll tell you what, just a quick little dip in the paint thinner. Really give it a good wrap on the feeder box, and a couple more times for good luck. I'm going to hit right where those two colors meet and soften it just one last little bit. Blur just enough. There it is. Got a sky with no green. How about that? Now, of course, I don't know if you noticed here recently, I'm using the jar of titanium white. It has like 2.5 tubes of paint worth there. Had a few busy classes here and using a lot of white. Mountains, winter scenes, we tend to go through it. So, save a couple bucks buying it in a big bulk tube there. Okay. I'm thinking, let's brighten this up. Let's have a super bright sunspot there. I don't know what that was. A little schmutz. Looked like a bug, but it wasn't. Alright, a little bit of titanium white. Let's just say, right in that one spot. Look at that, almost looks like a sun. Now I'm going to radiate. So everything will get a little lighter. Okay, I'm going to stop before I do too much. Clean out my brush. And barely touch. There it is. And I'm going to do that a couple of times. Put in that bright spot and radiate. Maybe we can get a little sun zing. And then lightly soften. Just a little something. Now, we are doing this lake scene here, and you don't see quite a lot here. I'm gonna stop here. Just realized here, we might have a little water. Tap it into both sides here. And we're gonna have just a little bit of water right around here. I'm not worried too much about the transition. This is getting covered up. Not a lot of water in this scene. Not a lot. Some little lines there. All right. Now, let's go ahead and mix up a little color. Oops. Mix up a little color here. It's about 2 parts brown, not even 1 part blue. We'll add a little more blue if we want, but mostly brown. And I'll tell you what, let's add a little black to that. We want a dark color, add a little black to it. So mostly brown, a bit of black and blue. Ooh, that is dark. There it is. Now, that says, let's take our black-handled oval brush, what the heck, and let's put a little indication of stuff off in the distance here. Little tappies. Not thinking about it too much. Tap a little color on, bend those bristles with tapping motions here. Just cutting off the sky. Look how it just, just dark. And, you know, I gotta step back from it here and realize I want it relatively flat across the bottom so that we can make some reflections. Not a big deal here, just cutting it off, making it just a shoreline way off in the distance. It's all about the same. And of course, you could make this just a little bolder if you tapped a little color onto your brush. Let's try that. Just a little bit here. Just make it a little darker in spots. There it is. And then pull it down and brush sideways. Maybe a little bit of that blue and Indian yellow. Look how dull of a green that is. Even with a little white brightens it up a little. Get some up on the tips of my brush here. I'm not looking for much. I just want some indications, perhaps. Not really seeing it. Let's try a little more white. Sometimes we just practice and see what happens. A little bit of color is all I'm looking for. There it is. Got to find that angle and tap in a certain pressure. There. Do we need any more? Maybe some right there. And sometimes when I'm tapping, you get a little of that highlight color. You just turn it into reflection. And the tiniest waterline we can get. Here and there, just off in the distance. Alright, so we got some brown there. I think we need a little bit of dark sienna as well. I'm probably going to need more Van Dyke brown, so I'll just get that right now for you. Now, I think I'll take a little bit of that titanium white on the short edge of my knife, and I'm just cutting side to side here, letting some of it come off and really get some sun glints there on the water. Maybe, we'll try this, a little bit of that Indian yellow and white. Ooh, that's a lot. And let's having a little bit of the yellow zinging here and there as a reflection of the sky. Now, quick dip into the paint thinner. I'm going to clean out that 1-inch brush. That 1-inch brush is a real workhorse for a lot of my paintings, and with good reason. It does the job. It's very versatile. All right. Just to be on the safe side, I'm going to just cut this off and just tap here. I'm going to add a little bit of the Van Dyke brown. Just change the colors here and there. This is just the background of all the rest of the painting. You can pull and wipe it like this if you want. You can tap it. Maybe a little bit of dark sienna as well. Just different indications of things in our scene. A little more brown. you know, you just wipe it, it all just disappears. I'm trying not to mix too much liquid white there. I just did something similar in a class, but we used the 2-inch brush on a bigger canvas, and it went a lot faster. There we go. All this is just some dark. So if I were to go super fast here, get rid of this liquid white, cover that up super quick, then I can kind of change the flavor a little easier, a little dark sienna here, a little Van Dyke brown there. Just let your hand kind of throw on the color, hardly looking at which one I'm putting on. Though it's easy to see once you start wiping it. There it is. Now, if I had a touch more green, we can make that green pretty easily, as we've seen. But maybe a touch of the cad yellow to make it easier. And I think I could just have one last little bit here in my tube. So we'll try to make it last. Okay, into the garbage it goes, but plenty for this painting. Okay, so we're going to try to hide a little bit of bushes and stuff here, hide the front of our land here just by tapping something in, and work my way up. It automatically gets brighter as we run out of paint, gets lighter and lighter. Make a nice little tree there. Already it looks like the light's kind of casting over and lightening it up. So, browns, greens, my little mix of black, brown, and blue, adding a little green, just breaking up the outer edge here. Look at that. All of a sudden, you got something brewing. All right, I think I'll take my liner brush, and if you can see this here, really thinning down some of the Van Dyke brown, really thin. We get it very thin, and we have just enough in our brush to make a couple of branches. I find the less there in your brush, well, you know, you got to reload more often, but I feel a little better at not making my branches too wet. Okay? I just mean that by, it's like I start digging canoes or something with the paint, it just flows off and just melts everything. I just want to put this brown over the shadow here and there, and maybe a couple of sticks and twigs throughout here. Trying to hit it very light, just so you can see little hints after we get the highlight on. There we go, some right here, a couple things happening in there. Even back off in the distance here, there could be a little stick or something. Now, let's take, here's my liquid white. Just going to take a hint of the liquid white, going back and forth, maybe a little Indian yellow in there, or yellow ochre, how about all of them, huh? And a little bit of the black. Let's see if we like that color. It dulls it, but I want it a little greener. Put it up there, kind of look, and let's see what we got. Pulling my brush back and forth, working some paint, creating that wedge of color there. And then I tap forward to get some right up on the tips. See the little ridge of paint there? That's what we need, is that little ridge of paint. And let's highlight. Ooh, I am not a fan of that color at all. Let's try again. Too much black, that just dulled it right down. We want things a little brighter than that. So a little bit of the cad yellow and the sap green without the black. Okay. And there, that's a little brighter. Tapping, creating a little section of highlight. Moving on down. Hopefully creating the illusion of leaves kind of hanging out in the sky there. And what I've been playing around with lately in my classes and in my own little practicing there is adding a second layer of highlights. Works really great in the grass. You know, those little light zingers Bob talks about. So just over here, I'm trying to stick with a lot more yellow, just making it even brighter in spots. Just yellow by itself, almost. Let's see here, maybe there'll be a little bush catching the light in front of this tree. Little taps. And we can make a slightly different green by adding a touch of the Prussian blue instead of sap green. Add a touch of the Prussian, get some different effects. And little highlights here and there. There it is. Now, I'm thinking here about some low-lying grass. So, best way I have to make it look nice and flat is use that fan brush. A little bit of this color here. Same basic shades here and there. Just a slightly different technique. This might be a little too much brush. We'll just tap lighter. Let's create this low-lying grass, just getting something started here. As I'm moving away, I'm going to try to give it a little bit darker appearance by adding a little more green to it, just to show that the light changes as we're moving through our foreground. All this tapping, I'm still putting color out there, but less and less, so we get these little pockets of shadows in our land. And we can pick and choose and highlight them right back up whenever we want. Like this. See, all nice and bright again. Tap it until it's as soft as you like. And if it's too soft, well, you just add it again. Now, let's see here. A bit of the black and brown. A little more black than brown, I think this was, if you were creating a recipe. And your colors here, you know, you can make them however you like. Maybe I'm going to use the short edge, but with the long knife, the large knife. And let's put a little cabin here. And this cabin, how big should it be? It's sorry, I'm so unsure there. I was really trying to decide. And all I'm trying to do is outline it a little bit. Get the sense of scale first. Something like that. Might just go back to that short knife. There it is. I really like building out this wireframe model here. It helps me control the knife a little easier. If you just figure out that outer edge, then you can just fill it in. It's basically just coloring in inside of the lines. Okay? But forgot to scrape that off first. A little bit of that green in there. And there it is. It's about exactly the width of my small knife. So I can just lay it on. Let's try that again. When it comes to these little buildings here, the less you mess with it, the better it looks overall. I think that's just going to get chopped off there. That's about right. And creating our little indication of the rest. Looks like there's going to be just a little eve on this side. And the rest of this is just going to get filled in with some dark. I think we can get this side in one go. Excuse me. It's that middle part that's just not big enough for even the small knife. So we just have to kind of slather it on and do our best to not destroy our outer edges. Pull that in. I could have made that cabin just a little bigger. And, you know, we're just laying it on. I know it looks a little weird, and we'll, you know, kill ourselves trying to make it quote perfect. You know, as long as it's relatively dark and in a cabin shape there, we're okay. We're not doing too bad. Do a little cabinectomy there, trim up the bottom. Now, in my little scene here, a lot of these cabins on the river are basically quite light. So I took a little bit of white, just a touch of black, and even maybe a touch of the yellow. Again, if maybe it's catching a little bit of that light. And let's just graze down, minding the eave. And put a little highlight on the front of this cabin. With a little less paint on the knife, we can do the side. Too much. We want this side here to be not as bright as the front, but just a touch of highlight there. I know it's going to be tough to see. We could probably leave it pretty dark. Any touch of this paint is going to make it look like the front. That's not going to be good. So what I sometimes do is put just very little there, wipe my knife clean, and then spread it down. Let it mix with that undercolor a little bit, just so it's a little darker. Okay. Now, what color is the roof? That's a very personal decision there. I think maybe just a touch of blue into my mix might do the trick. And today's, let's just give it these little tiny touches. I kind of changed my whole pattern there. Never did it like that before. Normally, get a little roll on the knife and let's just try to go tap, 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 tap. And make them a little longer. There we go. A little bit on the other side. Right on top of the eave. Little bit of dark color for a door. Which way do you want to do it? Pull to the side or pull down? Let's just pull to the side. Just a little door there. Maybe I should have pulled down. So if I were to take the tiniest amount of white, outline the side right there, that cleans that side up. Just one little touch, huh? Now, if I were to take the lightest touch of liquid white, maybe get a little outline on this cabin here and there, just to give it a little definition. There it is. What a sweet little cabin. Aw, it's a cutie. There it is. So I can come back with that fan brush and we can sneak in a little bit of grass around here. Sink that cabin in a little bit. Now what I'm thinking is maybe we've got a little path here, so just lightly scraping some brown. Let's just let it, there it comes. There's going to be a bigger path here, all this color. So we're just trying to let the cabin connect to it. Not too strong. This is a seasonal lake, you know? Most people don't come out until the summer, so the paths kind of wear out. All right, so let's go ahead and keep going ahead. Let's keep moving. We're going all crazy here. Filbert brush. And let's just make a little tree trunk. I think that might have been a little too much brush, a little too big. We might have been able to do it just right with some thinned brown on a script liner. Like that. Can kind of move it around a little easier and make it some gnarly looking trees. Maybe a little flare there. I like when the trees have those nice roots coming off. Some tall trees. This tree is just growing. I really recommend when you're doing these trees to just be brief. Don't try to keep going over and over and over them. I know once or twice you're probably going to do okay, but I'm trying to trace a line up more than once. Something's going to happen. Either you go outside your border, and that can just make the tree a little bigger, as I'm doing here. But maybe you'll put some stuff where you didn't expect. Just gets a little risky. Always want that paint to flow out of your brush. So once in a while I get another brush full of thinner and I remake my pile. Just do these little things, one at a time. And don't forget to start in the middle of the tree and go out sometime, not just maybe specifically on the left or right side. Ooh, that turned out to be a big one. And sometimes you can just go right on up over the sun, and it's going to lighten up on you when you do that. And this is just practice. You don't have to have this many in. We are doing some cover up here, so putting plenty of leaves in coverage is what I meant. Some of these don't always work out the way you wanted them to. I just try to, look at me, I'm on camera. Showing you there, and I'm making mistakes as I go, and I'm seeing some wonky ones come out there. It's okay. It's okay. So, let me get yet another color. And a little bright red to tint things and make all these changes here. So, a little bright red. I'm using my black-handled oval. It had a little bit of brown in it, so just tapping, look how much it dulls. Just the color I'm looking for. A little bit of this dull red. And, maybe this tree, why not? This is the one that's red. Okay. Now, just as I use the oval brush there, I can kind of get very similar effects using my 1-inch brush. It just takes a little different technique to give them those little rounded oval things there. But it can be done. Just putting some little clusters out here. And this one over here, maybe a little bit of yellow ochre, just to give some changes. You can do all of them the same color if you want, of course. And maybe over here there's something growing. And now we're just going to kind of do that again, just building our way forward a little more. There's all sorts of different little things happening here. This one here, maybe a little branch kind of coming out from this tree. Gets a little wild in the woods. Bright ones there. It's sort of overlapping the red here and there. All right, well that took care of start of our foreground. Got some interesting things going now. A little more detail starting to come through. That's just a dead stick, isn't it? I might have a little bit in my brush. Let's see here. There it is. Ooh, I have a lot more in my brush than I thought. And that goes from a dead thing to much bigger now. There it is. Clean that brush before I get too tempted. Going to clean these trees up here at the bottom. Tapping a little bit of color over there helps create the effect that the trees are definitely, you know, underground. Maybe sneak a little yellow up there. Little different moss effects here. Okay, so now what if I were to take just a little bit of that brown on that fan brush and maybe just give it a little indication of a shadow? Yeah, that worked okay. If you don't like it, you can always tap over it and hide it a little. What do I got going on here? We've got all sorts of color. I don't know, we could put the path in a number of different ways. Let's just have a little dark here. This path kind of meanders over this way. Now, I'm going to take a little bit of the white, dark sienna, a little bit more white, a little more dark sienna. Really want to load this brush up with some color, very loosely mixed and all sorts of different things happening in here. And let's try grazing over. Just letting that paint fall off. There it is. Now, just taking a bit more bright color highlight even more here. You can make, of course, this as bright or as dull as you want. Now, I'm not finished here. All I'm doing is getting some color out there. Okay. Now, I could leave it like that, and from a couple feet away, it looks completely fine. But some people, you know who you are, like to fiddle around and make this a little softer. So, after I clean my hand a little bit with my black-handled oval brush, having some color on it, I gotta clean that too. There we go, mostly clean and dry. And you could use the 1-inch brush, the 2-inch brush. You just graze over it and just watch it soften to get whatever feeling you're trying to get out here. You can see already, I want to put a little more of this next to the house. There it is. And if I just squeeze off the excess paint, I can go over it with hardly anything in the brush and soften that as well. There it is. Maybe there's just a little bit of a rocky outcropping. Let's see if we can do something there. Just taking a little bit of brown, pulling down. There we go. And a little bit of that highlight color, white and a little dark sienna. Let's just graze down here, just giving it just a little outcropping. Okay. Now I'll come back with my fan. That's my grass making brush. Let's just tap, creating the illusion here that it's coming out over. And this is a little flat up here, and then it's a little over. Kind of the grass is kind of hanging over the edge there. Just a couple of spots here first. There it is. I really like that little bit of brown just kind of fades out right there. Now we just tap underneath and put the grass flat at the bottom here, hopefully giving the illusion that this is a little step almost, for lack of a better term. There, brighten it up a little bit to make it stand out. There it is. And then just a wee darker underneath to give the appearance that this is a little more in shadow. Working my way and letting it overlap the path. More Indian yellows, a little bit of greens, and we'll come down here and do this little section. Bright. Ooh, I like it. That really makes things start to stand out, doesn't it? Having that little extra bright there. Wow, I thought I had enough yellow. I'm almost out. Okay, let's sneak some more in here. Might as well just finish this up and just get some grass all through here. Create the finale of the lay of the land. Big brush here, I'm just filling in some here. I'm going to show you again about those secondary highlights, the ones that really finish the scene. Don't want to kill all that dark color we painstakingly put on. Get all sorts of little hill effects when you just play around and let the brush kind of do its thing. All right, well, am I gonna have to get a whole new tube? I might have to. You'll just have to bear with me for 30 seconds. Is everything still recording? It appears so. Hooray! Something fell off the table and I thought it pulled the power cord out of the camera. Well, you know, it's just another day here in my studio. Making all sorts of wacky things. A lot of wacky things are happening in the background. Alright, new tube of cadmium yellow. Nice and soft, perfect for highlights. A little bit brighter now. And lighten some things up. Especially they're catching a little bit of the sun here. So they can be a little brighter. Add a little bit of the two other colors here and sneak some of those in just to break up, not have all the same brightness. Where you want that sun hitting. Ooh, it's so easy to change the whole landscape here. Look at that. Now all of a sudden we created a new hill right at the bottom. Catching the light a little bit brighter. Over here, not as much. Okay, that's not doing too bad. And let's change things. Now with this here, you got to watch the bottom, make sure it's nice and wide enough to support the rest of the tree. You know, and as I'm going up, it's tapering, but you got to find the right amount of taper, and it's a little tricky at first. I'd really suggest you step back, kind of giving those little bumps, those little gnarls there. There it is, big old tree. And let's do some highlights here. Maybe not so much. Excuse me. I'm going to take a little bit dark sienna and white and put a little bit of the Indian yellow in it. And maybe we'll get a little sense of bark catching the light as well. Maybe a little lighter. And all I'm doing here, either upside down or normal straight like this, is I'm just touching the length of the blade and letting that paint fall off kind of vertical. And there's going to be a big tendency here to go over and over and over it. And it's just a little risky, keep in mind there, of the paints will want to start mixing together the more you go over it. And the brightest should be out here closest to the sun, so I'm lightening some color and just putting little bits of the extra bright on that outer edge in certain spots. Okay. And then I am putting a little, just not very much, on the other side, you know, trying to create a round effect here. So don't want necessarily everything highlighted. Just an indication of bark. A little brighter. A little zing right there. You can always use the short edge if you're worried about doing too much at once. That'll be able to control it. Plus the short edge makes it a little easier to get this little transition from tree to root. Okay, so I think here, you take your brush here. When I went over with the grass, you might have went into the path, so I'm just coming in here and cleaning up the edge a little bit. And, you know, at this point here, you gotta yet make another decision, another major decision here. Does this big foreground tree have any branches or no? Maybe we have one. It's coming out, and this branch can afford to be a little bold. So I'm gonna make this one a little wider. There we go. And maybe give this one a second little arm coming out. And that's about what we got. So here I am, taking over and putting a little voiceover here at the end. It got a little loud. People didn't know I was recording, so they were walking above me. Oh, joy of family. So you could see here, probably figure this out without too much trouble here, but I'm just using my liner brush and a little bit of thinned lighter brown, and I tease a little highlight on that branch there. You run that branch up and down the trunk to give it some extra shadows too. So the rest of the painting, and it does go on for another couple of minutes here, it's just doing some of these fine details. I took a little darker green just to make this one stand out from the other trees. And I'm just using all the different colors to show you that variation of what things look like. You could certainly use the same color for every tree. It's all what you're looking for. As usual, it's up to you. So, it looks like I have the highlights on those trees and just doing a little bit of cleanup. Watch this. I just tapped a little bush right on the path. What am I doing there? What is that all about? Well, I just give it a little stick and a twig with the liner brush, and boom, it's a little bush up on a branch. It's not just sitting on the ground all rough. It actually is just a little mini tree. How about that? And a couple of dead sticks and twigs here and there. If you've ever gone out down by the lake and all the woods and tall grasses, and you could easily throw in tons and tons of detail. Keep going, put in all sorts of push-up bushes or push-up grass, making parts of it look wild and crazy, and some of it very soft-like. It's all up to you. I even took a little bit of this color and tapped it up, make it look like a little moss is growing over the bottom of that tree on the right. Look at that. Different colors there. Added a little green just to make it stand out. Softening the rest of that grass is just an exercise in how much you want to fiddle with it at this point. The more you go over it, it'll just blur and soften and do wonderful things. So, I hope you guys enjoy that. I hope you tune in to twitch.tv when we have Europe TwitchCon coming. See you then.